But I'm
Yeah.
here with Birgitte Stærmose, director and writer for Afterwar. It's weird saying writer for a documentary, but this isn't exactly a documentary, is it? It's kind of sort of narrative, sort of documentary. Um, and this is 15 years in the making. I guess let's start with what got this movie going and what was the whole sort of conceit of this.
Three big questions. Um, I mean, first of all, just to agree with you, yes, I actually don't really think of it as a documentary in any traditional sense. I'm a fiction director myself, and it is constructed in many ways like as if it was a fiction film. Though it's with real people. So what I usually say is that it's real, they're playing versions of their own lives. So what they're playing is truthful in terms of their lives, but it's not always factual, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a movie called Bernie with Jack Black in it, and the movie was definitely a narrative, but it was based on a true story, and they had people in the movie that they would cut to doing interviews and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a sort of a weird hybrid. But like this one kind of melts the line. But you said this you approach this as a narrative. What was the whole idea behind that, or what what led to that choice?
Yeah, what led to the choice? I mean, for me, it's a natural choice because I'm a fiction filmmaker. I don't make documentaries in my career. So I think like a fiction filmmaker. So for that reason, it's natural. But in terms of this topic, I mean, what happened was that I went to Kosovo the film is constructed over 15 years, but it started out with me doing a short in 2008 called Art of Love. And this film is based on interviews that I did with them as children. And then those interviews were taken and scenes were written for them, monologues were written for them. And when I was working on that film, and this process before we started filming was over a year and a half, I think. So it was a long time. And what I discovered, I did these interviews with them, and I would come home and talk to people about the experience of meeting them, which was hard. And I wanted to sort of decompress, share the experience with people to try and understand it better. And what I found was that a lot of people would actually cut me off once I started telling them about it. And the way they would do it, it was very polite. They would start to say, "Oh, I feel so bad for them. That's so sad." So they would start to express their great pity for them. And then once they had done that sufficiently, they would switch topics and talk about something entirely different. And what I discovered in that process was that that we have a way of coping with people in a less privileged situation than ours by displaying pity. I think it's a defense mechanism or a way to get past other people's misery is to display pity. But I actually got quite provoked by it because I thought these kids, as I knew them, couldn't care less. They had absolutely no use for it. It didn't make a hoot of a difference for them that some people in Denmark were feeling sorry for them. So when I was starting to decide how was I going to do the film exactly, I thought I really don't want the audience to be able to feel pity. And when you do something with children in a very unfortunate and difficult situation, it's actually hard not for an audience to feel pity first. And so I constructed a way of working with them where I really wanted them to confront the audience with their humanity. And I wanted their humanity. So I wanted to enlarge their humanity because I felt like when I met them, I thought these kids have seen too much. They really had the look of old people in the eyes. They're like these old souls in children's bodies. And I wanted to find a way to express that because I felt like knew and saw everything. They had a very large understanding of life, probably larger than children should have. So for that reason, I came up with this form where they perform monologues to the audience. And the way I came up with the idea was actually I saw a play, a Belgian play that was in Copenhagen, and it consisted of 20 children on the stage. And what they would do is they would speak back to the audience all these sentences that adults would say to them. You know, you have to finish your dinner. No, don't eat too much. You have to go to the bathroom. You should believe in God. You should not believe in God. You know, and it was very absurd and it was very, you know, as a parent, I felt very confronted by the nonsense, you know, that you as, you know, and the responsibility as parents. So when I saw that play, I thought, wow, there's really, you know, we don't assume that children talk back at us as adults in that way, sort of equally, which is what those kids did in the play. So I thought I really want to find a form where they, I mean, talk back is maybe not the right term for it, but where they speak to us in a way where we are confronted with their humanity. So that's how the film started. The form of the film came out of this thinking.
Yeah, watching it like the people in this, they always whisper like a lot, and a lot of the times they're whispering in public places. It's real stylized the way you put it up, but it almost feels like at least my take on it was it feels like this is stuff I want to get out, but I don't want everyone to hear it. Like I'm either ashamed or maybe I don't want to put this burden on you or whatever it is. It just felt real personal. That, and then you did this when they're older as well as when they're younger. I'm guessing this started pretty early on. Was there anything like that you started shooting a while ago that maybe after time you're like, ooh, maybe we should have done that instead, or or ooh, this is a real gift I gave my future self, or so on and so forth?
I've tried not to evaluate it too much because, you know, what you did in the past, you did, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think there's probably, you know, with sort of my sense of ethics and how you work today. I don't know if I would have done the short film the way I did it then 15 years ago. Not sure. You know, I think I'm informed in a different way than I was 15 years ago. I think we all are. The whispering came about actually because once I had interviewed all the children and were ready to film, I was concerned about how was it going to be for them when we put up the camera. And I needed to test that to sort of get a sense of how was it for the individual child? Could they handle it? You know, how much could they handle it? How do we do it so it becomes a good experience? So what I did is I set up what we called a casting session, but it was actually, we weren't casting anybody. Everybody were in the film. But we gave them each just a very simple monologue and asked them to learn it and come and say it to the camera. Just that was the test. And some of them who came really couldn't do it. You know, they were like, I don't know. You know, it was so intimidating for them. And then during the session, I said, well, you could just whisper it. You don't have to speak, because they had trouble, you know, getting the vocal cords activated. So I said, you could just whisper it. And then when we came home and looked at this footage with them whispering to the camera, we felt it was very powerful. Like there was a real sort of intimacy, which we were looking for all along. You know, we really wanted the kids to confide in the audience, you know, to have an intimate space between them and the audience. And then so it just as a lot of things in a creative process, you know, something happens and you grab it. And this was something that happened for, you could call it practical reasons, or just, you know, to make them comfortable. I suggested they whisper so they could complete the task,
Yeah.
you know, and it just became something that we used.
It's basically like a happy accident, as Bob Ross says.
Completely a happy accident. Yeah, 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 absolutely.
And also, like when you're dealing with children, especially children that are uh, kind of recounting their own lives, uh, just in general, dealing with someone, you always want to you always worry about reopening old wounds, and with
Mhm.
children especially. Like what's kind of your thoughts on that, and like how do you navigate that? Gotta get the story out, but at the same time, I don't want to do it at the risk of further damaging, some children that have already been through some stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely. I mean, one reason it's also a fiction is because of this. You know, I never asked them to participate in the film as themselves. And I know this sounds ridiculous in a way, you know, especially for a documentary, you know,
Well, it's
but
not a
but
documentary, so
but it's not. But still, you know, but it is. But it's not. But I used the fiction to protect them all along. So what I said to them is, I said, we have these texts, you know, they're based on your interviews. I would give them a text and I would say, how do you feel about saying this, you know, in the film? You know, you're an actor. And what I actually did is because for me, it's not an individual story about the individual kids. It's much more a collective story. So from the very beginning, I said, you know, anybody can really tell anybody's story because it's they share it. They also say that in Afterwar, you know, we all share the same story, which is something I really stand by. So when they were children, what I did is I purposely mixed up the what they had said in the interviews and what they said to the camera. And they had a complete choice in, you know, if somebody said, like one guy, Xhevahire, he said, you know, I don't want to, I wanted him to open and close the film. And he was closing the film and he said, but I don't want to say that opening monologue because it's about selling on the street. I don't want to say that. So I said, okay, I'll give you something else. So he has the monologue about paradise, which was his own from his own interview. But you know, so I adjusted it like that because to what their wishes were, because it was a collective story, so I didn't feel it was important.
yeah. And when shooting a movie this long, like doing a documentary just in general, you can never predict what's going to happen. But then you have the narrative kind of angle on this as well. So that kind of makes your position more precarious because uh you're going 15 years. Has there ever been a point where um you're going through this and you're like, this might not work, like just because of how life works, or how would like
Yeah.
we might not have the story I thought we had here, and this was all a waste of time. Has there ever been that moment for you?
I should explain that, you know, I first did the short with them as children, and then 8 years passed where I thought, okay, I did a very successful short. It was a very unique experience. It's a very important work for me, but it's in the past. And then after 8 years, you know, I was following them and in contact with some of them, and I got more and more curious, you know, about how their life was developing. And then I went back to all of them and showed them the old film. Now they were adults. I showed them the old film. We talked about the experience of doing it and asked them if they wanted to do another one.
Okay,
And
so just so I'm clear, this movie, part of this is the old short.
yes, so the
Okay,
beginning, so everything with them as children is from when I shot the short. And then 8 years passed, and then I started shooting with them again.
okay,
So there was a decision to make another film at some point. When I first did the short, I never had any intention of going beyond the short. It was something that I decided to do later with them. But I mean, but to answer your question, there were so many moments where I thought, like, how, you know, it's a very complicated film to put together because it has many characters, many times, and many stories. you know, and it's a collective story, but you can't leave the audience completely out to sea, you know. You have to hold their hand in some way so that they don't feel lost in all these different threads of characters and story and time. So there were many moments where I thought, like, can we make this, you know, coherent? But in terms of, you know, was it possible? I mean, I think when I went back and had the process with them and said, look, do you want to do it? And we changed the way we worked because they were adults. So it became much more collaborative than when they were children, because they had a lot more agency as adults. I mean, they were very committed to doing the film throughout. And I mean, I never doubted that there was a film, but it was a very difficult film to make. You know, very, very, very difficult.
If they ever approach you after this and it's like, look, we did this second thing that we did about our lives. Can we do a comedy next time?
No, I think they've sometimes said I have to keep filming them, and I've said, come on, you know, we're done. For the time being, we're done. You know, but yeah.
Yeah, but also like another aspect of the technical aspect. So you shot the short film, and then it's 8 years later, and you're shooting stuff as is this movie, and you've grown as a filmmaker since then. Technology has improved since then. How do you still maintain the look, like make everything look like it was shot in one time, as opposed to having that stark line where, oh, this is clearly the old footage and this is the new footage?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with the same crew for the short and for the long film, mostly the same crew, and the same cinematographer shot most of the film. You know, so Mike Visa shot, you know, maybe 2/3 of the film, and then he couldn't shoot the last segment of shooting, and then actually we had a very difficult. You know, I got COVID. The DOP that was replacing him got COVID, you know, so that was the moment where I thought, like, can we finish the film? You know, because it's not a big budget film, you know, and when somebody gets COVID, when you have a 2-week shoot, you know, what do you do? You know, so and somebody came in who really was able to, tools, the second cinematographer came in and was really able to step into the style of the film. But I think I was very lucky that he could do that. You know, I think the you know, keeping the same visuality, you know, it's helped a lot by the fact that it's very dependent on the locations in Kosovo. You know, the look is sort of governed by how it looks there. You know, the way there's a lot of mixed lighting and the just the atmosphere in the place we used a lot. And a lot of those places didn't change over the 15 years.
Yeah,
You know,
I think as far as like the cinematography goes, or just art in general, that's kind of a underrated or unsung aspect of the art, to be able to recreate something. Because you know, you talk about like different artists that are auteurs, they have their own stamp on everything, but then there's other people that can kind of meld and sort of camouflage their work to make it look like previous work. And I don't think there's enough uh I don't know what the word is, but it's impressive to me that people can do that, but it's not very showy.
yeah, and it's, I mean, it's actually, it was tricky in many ways because we also, you know, the cinematographer and I, when we started out shooting after those 8 years, you know, we had also changed, both of us, you know, so we had to kind of step back in our younger shoes in a way. But then we also knew we wanted to develop the style a bit. You know, the film does develop visually a bit, you know, like it's scene materials and they have dialogue, and it's a little more, it moves a little more than the first film did, because we didn't feel like just sticking to the old style. So could work for a feature film, but actually that was the hardest thing, I thought, was to like keep the style but not keep the style, you know, to try and develop it but not develop it so much that it didn't feel like one film.
Yeah, you know, it's sticking out like a sore thumb. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was very, very difficult, actually.
yeah. So, what kind of is there any plans on? Well, I guess it might be too early to even ask this, but like, is there a world in which you do Afterwar 3, like another 8, 10 years from now, just to kind of catch up on everyone?
I mean, that's what I was saying before. You know, they have hinted. I mean, even Xhevahire said, "Are you going to film my funeral?" And I said, "I don't. I hope
Jesus.
not." You know, like that would be very unnatural and unfortunate if I could film your funeral. So, you know, as a joke, you know, but no, I don't have any plans. I mean, it's not a 7 up for me. You know, I mean, I specifically, you know, wanted to just take a look in the narrative on this, on the trajectory of the fate of them from children to adults, and just to see, like, when you grow up with those and those difficult circumstances, what are your chances, you know, like. And I felt like there's so many narratives where we kind of lie, you know. We say, oh, there's this really bad situation, but look, it can become better. You know, and the fact is that if you grow up poor, it's extremely difficult to get out of it. Extremely difficult. You know, you just don't have the advantages that enable you to get out of it. And I could see that with their lives, that even though they have really strong characters and they really fight and they really struggle, it's sometimes an incredible uphill battle. And I wanted to tell something that could show that over a longer period of time. That's what motivated me to go back.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, so how do you balance because when people have hard lives, um they still find joy within bits of their lives. One of the characters has a baby, and just see him, like, he's just like radiating at that point. He's
Mm.
like, "Oh, this is
Mhm.
awesome! I have a baby," you know. Um,
Mhm.
but then, like, a lot of movies of this sort would shy away from that because they're trying to maintain on the poverty porn aspect of it, and they don't show that, like, your life can be, you can have joy in your life even though it's, the is in total kind of difficult.
Mhm. I mean, I think, you know, I have tried not to sort of put my own expectations into the film about how they experienced it, and I've had a very diligent process, sort of, with spending time with them and interviewing them and understanding how they're feeling. And of course, the film is primarily about their emotionality. You know, it's about how they feel, a lot of it, you know. And I think it's very truthful to that. But of course, there's certain aspects of their life where they don't express this because it's an intimate version of how they feel. It's not maybe the social version of how they feel. Does that make sense?
Uh,
You know, so it's just, it's, I think, in a way it portrays how they feel in their lives as if a close friend was talking to them. But maybe when they go to work, they display something else, to the world that are not the close friend.
yeah,
There are other ways of displaying it, but I was really trying to show sort of an inner truth, their inner truth, more than their exterior display,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, a little bit. Do you think that's why going the narrative route in this instead of the documentary route? Because, like, with documentary, it's when you point a camera at someone, they're saying they know the camera is there, they say what's on the camera, whereas a narrative, you can kind of talk to the people, do the behind the scenes stuff, and then just kind of work that out. Like, this is what we're seeing, but what's really going on? Let's express that.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to work with this more controlled form because I think, in a way, and it's related to what I said before about, the intimacy, in a way you can get to a more real reality. Like, I think it's a little bit of a lie to think that when you turn on the camera and you film reality, that you have reality. You still have some performance. The reality still performs for the camera in some way, right? So actually, by staging things more, I think you get into a hyper reality, which to me actually can become more real.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, it totally makes sense to me, but at the same time, saying that out loud, it seems kind of like a paradox. The lie is more of the truth than the truth is.
But yeah, but it's not a lie, you know, because I think that what there are no lies about is the emotional truth.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
Oh no, no,
no.
no. I mean
Yeah,
lies in the we're gonna write it down. We're gonna, this is not happening in real time on camera. We're
yeah,
producing this, but yeah,
yeah,
I take your point.
yeah. But in a, in a way, I mean, all documentarians stage to some extent, right? You have to do some staging to put a film together, even when you do fly on the wall documentary, you still stage. You still hope things will happen. You still try and make a situation occur, and this is just a more, this is a staging that doesn't present itself as not, it presents itself as that,
Yeah.
like it makes it clear that it's staged.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I kind of respect about this, because I've seen documentaries where things are staged or things are kind of cooked, as I call it, to the point where they're not even speaking the truth of what's going on. They're bending it to what, for whatever reason they want, and sometimes to the detriment of the subjects of the documentary, which I think is kind of disgusting and cruel to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, it's, making a film with somebody, the potential for being manipulative is so great. You actually have to be quite careful, not to manipulate people, because
Yeah.
you have so much power behind the camera. So, so I mean, this is a co-creation with the cast. So when you have a piece of paper and you say, this is the scene, this is what we're going to do. This is where we're going to put the camera. This is what you're going to say. This is how you're going to say it. This is how the shot looks. In a way, you remove a lot of manipulation, even though you could say it's so controlled, but everybody also knows what's going on.
Yeah. But
You
then
know,
again, there's the catch-22 again, because like even with the controlled area, you still want to manipulate them, but you want to manipulate them in an honest way as opposed to manipulate them in a dishonest way.
yeah, but I actually have never thought that I was manipulating, because I think when you manipulate, you do something where you know something that they don't know. And that's
Okay.
often documentary, like if you manipulate a situation, you're like, okay, if I set it up like this, I think this might happen, and they don't know it might happen, but I think I know it might happen. But in this case, we all know where we're going, like nothing will happen that we didn't plan,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So everybody can predict the end. And also, like Xhevahire, for example, he once in a while he would complain. He's like, that guy, the way he's holding the camera, it's not professional. I'm doing my job, So there was there was an equalness about everybody was doing a job, right? We're all trying to perform and make a result together that we know what's going to be. Like we all have a standard for it, whereas in documentary, people in front of the camera don't have that role typically.
Yeah. And so, what's the release plan on this? Because I assume you doing film festivals, or you're actually having like an online screening of this.
Yes, it's going to run online until the 1st of December, I believe, through DOC NYC.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it had a cinema release in Denmark. I don't know, this is the North American premiere, so I don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
in the US, but yeah.
What's been the response so far? Just well, both with the people that are in this, as well as the people like myself that haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think the cast in the film, I think it's been a very interesting experience for all of us, and a really great one, I would say. I mean, we premiered the film in Berlin, and they all came to the world premiere, and two of them had never been on an airplane. They had never been outside of Kosovo. I think none of them had been to a cinema. and seen a film, you know, and I had shown the film during the process to them in Kosovo on a television screen. And I said, look, you know, now you have to tell me if there's something, if you're sitting in a room with 500 people in another country, can we watch this? You know, are you okay? And they said, yes, but I thought, how, you know, how can you predict that fully when you've never tried? So I was quite, you know, nervous about how was it going to be for them to sit with 500 people in Berlin and see the film on a big screen, you know, to see yourself so big. And it's a very emotional film, but I think they, I mean, what they told me afterwards, they said, you know, like people would come up and hug them. You know, I think the fact that in the film, you know, they break a lot of taboo by talking about the past. And when they say in the film, you know, I don't talk to my family or my friends about what happened, it's true. But now they have done it in the film, and everybody has seen it. And people have also seen it in Kosovo now. They won the audience award in Kosovo. So I think there's been a real opening up for them, because now they have said it, they've stepped out of this taboo and this silencing that they had experienced. And I feel like they walk around with a lot more dignity. Also, this experience of, they also came to the cinema premiere in Denmark, this experience of coming and meeting the audience, you know, people that they might have thought, people that they were selling to in bars, right? You know, that they might have thought looked down on them, and actually to, you know, get applause and get, you know, warmth and acknowledgement, I think has been unique.
Yeah. Well, speaking of unique, this is definitely a unique movie. It's certainly a unique take on this kind of, unique approach on this kind of story. And I really respect how you approached it and how you, navigated the landmines, especially when dealing with children. I always worry about when filmmakers approach children in this way, especially
Yeah.
children with rough past, and you seem to navigate it beautifully. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
well, we'll end with a fun question. Uh,
Yeah.
but let's end with this movie recommendation from you of a movie that you like, that you think more people should probably put eyeballs on. Like, this one's really good, no one talks about it.
Oh my goodness, that's so difficult. That's very difficult. Partly because you're challenging my memory, and I've been traveling to festivals, so you get a little bit um, lost when you're traveling.
What was something at a festival that you saw that stood out?
Actually, you know, I saw a debut film in Germany last week, which I thought was very interesting. It was a Lithuanian film where she had filmed. It's called Toxic, and it's about these teenage girls that live. It's a fiction film that live in a very, you know, poor area, and they're trying to get out. I mean, it relates to this film actually. They're trying to get out of their misery by going to this modeling school. But you know, as an audience, when you're watching it, it becomes very clear that it's not modeling, it's prostitution. You know, but they're really struggling to, you know, become models. You know, and it's just I thought it was very strong.
Yeah.
The performance is very strong, and just the story was very strong. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me today. Definitely, anyone listening, check out Afterwar. Again, very unique take on this sort of thing. And look for the what was it, 14 up version of Afterwar. Or if you guys want to follow up with the romantic comedy, I'm cool with that too. But thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to me.